Again, welcoming you all to the presentation. I hope you have a very fruitful time spent with me in this session. Usually when we look at life, we say that life is a journey. Life is a journey towards something. Achieving something, achieving a goal, achieving a degree, achieving any kind of what we say worthy pursuit. Okay, and usually for if you see the child in this picture, for a person to reach the end of the road and achieve something that we value, it can be me, it can be anybody in this world. There are so many things that is required. As you see, a road is never without potholes, never without gutters, never without troubles or roadblocks. So every time we need to think of achieving something in our life, irrespective of where that achievement is, what that achievement is, we need to be aware of what can come in our ways to achieve what we value or what we cherish. And in order for us to achieve in our lives, to get achievements, we say that we need to have a dream. We need to have a dream, and having a dream is not enough. It is not that we don't have dreams, that we don't achieve it. We often fail to convert this dream into a goal. That is why you often fail to achieve our dream. So we need a dream, we need a goal, and definitely, we have dreams, we have goals, but often we do not have enough motivation, or we do not have enough motivation sustained to achieve our goal. And sometimes we have dreams, sometimes we have goals, sometimes we have motivation, and sometimes we may not have enough support to achieve our goal. So to achieve a goal in our lives, it can be academic, non academic, we need at least these three things, these four things. Okay, and even if we have all these things, when we have a dream, when we have a goal, when we are motivated, when we have support, still there can be significant roadblocks that will come in your way to achieve your goal. So the question is what that is. What can actually stop us from achieving what we wanted to achieve? And the answer usually is that it is our mental health as well as mental illness. Okay, so if you look into your life, and if you see, if you ask your question, have I achieved what I can, and if the answer is no, then that answer has a lot to do with your mental health and your mental illness or mental health status. Okay, what we will do is we will look into what is mental health and what is mental illness, and then we'll move forward to what can be done in order to improve our mental health. Before getting into what is mental illness or mental health, we need to understand what is this mental thing. What is this mental? Mental is an adjective which usually means something associated to, something related to mind. Okay, and what mind is a very complex definition. Even today, even at this age of humanity, we do not have a complete agreement on what it exactly means by a mind. In short, it can be said that it is everything that a human being represents. The intellectual, psychological phenomena that includes our motivation, our feeling, our behaviors, our perception, our thinking. It includes everything that we call as a being a human. Okay, so uh, and the moment, if you search this word mind and mental on online, you would see that mental is an adjective which is relating to the mind. Okay, if you open the Google dictionary, okay, not any standard dictionary, if you open the Google dictionary, which many people use to search for meaning, word and word meaning and all, if you search for the word mental, you would find that it is an adjective which means relating to mind, and immediately there is a second meaning which says relating to disorders of mind. Okay, this is something that you have to keep in mind in the discussion. Moving forward, we will get revisit this. Okay, so the word mental means relating to the mind, or it also says that it is something relating to disorders of the mind. But at the same time, if you look the word physical physical is something related to, it's an adjective which means relating to the body as opposed to the mind. Okay, but there is no second meaning for that. The second meaning is that relating to things perceived through the senses. See the difference. When mind became mental and physic became physical, one became that it is associated with the mental illness. It is associated with illness. So we don't say that he is physical. For a person who is having physical illness, we never say that he is physical. But for a person with mental illness, we would say that he is mental. Right? So this is a difference that we keep into mind. We need to keep in mind when we move forward with our understanding of what is mental health and what is mental illness. Okay? So from mental it goes to mental illness. Uh, Before we move into mental health, the most important thing that we need to understand is what does it mean by actually mental disorder or mental illness. For example, a person comes to me. I'm a clinical psychologist trained in mental illness and mental health disorders and all. So if a person comes to me, how do I decide that a person has mental illness? How do I know that a person has mental illness? And this is something I wish I expect that all of the public, all of the humanity learn as much as about. And I will be using a standard definition for mental illness and describe each of it so that you understand. Okay, so if somebody asks you after you attend this session, now after you attend this session and you go out and they ask you, oh, you attended that session, what did you understand? And if they ask you that question, and if only answer that you can tell them is I understood what it means by mental illness, I would be really glad. So the first question that we ask is what is mental illness? Okay, so when a person asks you this question, the first thing that should come to your mind is that it is a syndrome. Okay, first thing, something that you need to remember is that it is a syndrome. And what does it mean by a syndrome? A syndrome is a group of symptoms. Okay, remember, a syndrome is a group of symptoms that appear more or less together. Okay, so if there is one symptom, there is another symptom, there is another symptom, and these symptoms usually come together. It's like close friends. Close friends. When you have close, if you have close friends, you will know. You go to a shop all the time with your friend, and next time you go, the shopkeeper asks, "Where is your friend?" Because you two go together all the time, right? Something like that. So in mental illness, these symptoms often come together. So when one is there, we also usually know that the other is also possibly there. For example, if you say depression, depression is a psychiatric disorder, and to say that depression, it should be having a number of symptoms. For example, feeling sad. Feeling sad is a depression of symptom of a depression. It can also be, yeah, it can also be restlessness. It can be reduced sense of self-worth. It can be loss of interest in activities. It can be suicidal thoughts or attempts. It can be difficulty in attention and concentration. It can be reduced sleep or disturbed sleep. It can be problems with your gut, digestive problems, etc. It can be physical aches also, and it can be pessimism. No? So, if you look into depression as a disorder, you need to keep in mind that depression is not a single symptom. And that is why, if you are feeling sad, and if you tell to a psychologist, I'm feeling depressed, they would say, no, 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 you are not depressed. That is not depression. That is sadness. Sadness is a very important part of depression, but not the single factor of depression. Okay? So, if somebody asks you next time, what is mental illness? The first thing you have to tell him is, see, mental illness is something that has a number of symptoms in it. Okay, and so what does this symptom do? When these symptoms are there, what happens is that these symptoms cause significant disturbance. Okay, so there is, for example, there is sadness, but sadness is a part of our daily life. Okay, so anybody who is having sadness, we cannot say that depression is there. What we say is that there is sadness, and this sadness is causing significant problem to the person. Or there is anxiety. For example, anxiety is very common. Anxiety is very common. Everybody experiences some or some level of anxiety. And if somebody is anxious, doesn't mean that he is having some anxiety disorder. He is having anxiety, and because of this anxiety, this person is experiencing significant troubles. Then we say that it is anxiety disorder. Okay, so there are some symptoms, and these symptoms are causing significant disturbance. And where do we see these symptoms? How do we know that these symptoms are expressed? These symptoms are seen in the way a person think, a person feels, a person behave. Okay, so mental illness is a number of symptoms coming together, causing a lot of significant disturbance in a person's lives, in his way of thinking, in his way of feeling, in his way of behaving. Okay, so it affects our overall life, not just thinking, not just feeling, not just behaving, but mental illnesses affect our complete, what we say, repertoire of our life. And for example, in depression, a person may start thinking that people do not like me. People don't like me. And when I believe that, when I think that people don't like me, what would I feel? I feel sad. that people don't like me. And when I feel sad, what would I do? I will move away from people. For example, Rashid is a friend of mine, and if I believe that he doesn't like me, when next time when I see him, what will I do? I will go away from him, and I will start doing with everybody. So ultimately I will keep isolating myself from this society. And that is why social withdrawal is an important symptom of even in depression also. So for each illness, for depression, for anxiety disorder, for obsessive compulsive disorder, for schizophrenia, for any of the mental illnesses, there are a number of symptoms. These symptoms cause significant disturbance in the person's way of thinking, feeling, and behaving, and it affects all these three areas. And the important next thing that we need to keep in mind is that this disturbance is a result of dysfunction. Okay, this significant disturbance is a result of a dysfunction, and this dysfunction is not because of some physical problem, but because something is going unwell, something is not working in the person's mental functioning. Okay, so there is psychological, biological, or developmental basis for our thinking, our behaving, our feeling, our life. So something is, for example, I am not going for work. Okay, I am not going for work, and I have been not going for work for 1 month, 1 month, and you realize that Naufal is not going for work, but he doesn't seem to have any physical problem, any physical illness, and despite he is lying at home, not doing anything, and that is maybe reflecting something to do with my mental status. If I have broken my leg and I'm not going for a job, that is because my leg is broken, I cannot go for a job. So the dysfunction that I experience is to come from something that is underlying my mental health processes, mental functioning. That is what is also important. For example, in schizophrenia, it is believed that there is chromosomal, neurotransmitter, and so psychosocial factors involved in developing a mental health condition, okay, mental illness. Okay, so next time, remember, next time somebody asks you, tell me what is mean by mental illness, you tell them that, see, mental illness is a group of symptoms, a group of issues that appear more or less together. They come together, and when they are there, it affects a person significantly. It causes significant disturbance to the person, his thinking, his feeling, and his behavior, and it is due to some problems in his psychological functioning. If you say that, you will get, if you are writing an examination for psychology or mental health, if you write that, you will get complete mark for mental disorder. Okay, so that is what you need, and this is very important, not even for a person in the field of psychology, but even for lay public, because without understanding what is mental illness and mental health, we cannot do anything about it. Okay, so I hope the concept of mental disorder is clear. Anybody having any doubt, any thoughts or questions on that? Okay, if not, I will move forward. Uh, so another way of looking at mental illness is, okay. So mental illness is defined in a particular way. There is a different way, which I think you will be able to understand in a better way. Is what we call as 4 Ds of abnormality. Okay, we say that 4 Ds of abnormality. The first D is distress. Okay, so when you're talking about a person's life, you find that the person is going through a lot of distress. There is a behavior causing anxiety, bad feelings, or other negative feelings for either the person or others around him. Okay, the distress can be to the person or people around that person. For example, obsessive compulsive disorder is a psychiatric illness characterized mostly by the distress experienced by the person. It is a disorder that is associated a lot with the psychological distress. Then there is danger. You know, uh, the person may engage in behaviors that are dangerous, or what we say, harmful to himself or for others. To self can be the suicidal attempts and all, for others can be homicidal, but a person with a mental illness attacking other people is very rare, though it is one of the common myth that we believe that people with mental illness are unpredictable violent people, which is not necessarily true. So distress, danger, self-harm, and homicide. In fact, self-harm is very common in people with mental illness. Okay, it is said that about every 100 suicides, about 50% or 60% or something, those people have some kind of mental illness. Okay, that is the high number. And deviance is that a person is engaging in a particular behavior, but that behavior is very rarely seen in the society. And in fact, most people in the community find that the behavior to be odd. But remember, This is not a good criteria, because if you take World War Second, World War Second, Nazi Germany. In Nazi Germany, Nazism was normal. Everybody used to subscribe to that idea. That normal doesn't mean that it is healthy. Okay, normal has to do with the numbers, the norm, and norms keep changing. So we have to be very careful about that. And of course, dysfunction. This is one of the most important criteria. A person is experiencing significant dysfunction in his life. Life can be in personal life, in social life, in occupational or academic life. Okay. So if in the absence of a physical health issue, okay, you see that a person is not physically ill, that is physically okay, but he's having significant difficulties in his personal, social, academic or work life, then it may be an indication that the person is experiencing some kind of mental health issue. Okay, so next time somebody is feeling not going for work and all, it is not to assume that he is having mental illness, but if you know somebody, maybe a friend, maybe a family member, maybe you yourself, is experiencing significant dysfunction. You are a researcher, but you are not able to engage in your research. You are having significant difficulty, getting up getting up in the morning and doing your work and completing your research. And you see, like, I don't have any physical health problem. I went to the doctor. Doctor tested me, and there is nothing wrong with my body, but still I am suffering significantly. It may be a symptom, or if you know somebody like that, it may be a sign that the person is suffering of some kind of mental health problem. Okay, so remember, suffering doesn't mean that it is equal to mental illness. Suffering is often a part of mental illness, not a adequate factor. Okay, I hope you keep that in mind. And every time we think of mental health and mental illness, we believe that some people are mentally healthy and some people are mentally ill. It is not like that. Okay, there is a continuum of mental health and illness. There is a continuum of mental health and illness. For example, imagine the people whom you know, your friends, your family members, your teachers, your colleagues, everybody you know. Just think of them. Okay, all these people, including yourself, all these people can be grouped into one of the three kinds. Okay, depending on their level of mental health. Depending on their level of mental health. The first group is people with mental illness. So if you know 100 people, okay, you might take 100 people whom you know, and some of them will be having some form of mental illness. Okay, they have what we call as a diagnosable disorder. They have significant serious alterations in thinking, mood or behavior, and they have impaired functioning also. Okay, so if you know people, and out of those people, a few may be having people with mental illness. Okay, and as you might already know, mental illnesses cause a significant burden and disability worldwide, not just in India, all over the world. It is a significant cause of burden and disability. Okay, for example, 1 in 4 is the number of people affected by mental or neurological disorders at some point. So if you know 100 people, okay, if you know 100 people, out of these 100 people, 25 of them will experience some or other form of mental or neurological disorder. Not stress, not tension, some illness. Okay, some psychiatric or neurological disorder. So that's a huge number. You take 100 people whom you know, it is maybe your class. If you are doing graduation or post graduation, there are 50 people. So out of 50 people, about 12 people, 12 people will experience some form of mental or neurological disorders, and that's a huge number. But and also take 4 families. You take your own home and 2 other neighboring homes, and out of these 3 families, there will be at least one person who is affected by a mental health issue. That's a huge number again. But while majority, a lot of people experience mental illness, like one out of 4 people experience mental illness, and mental illness causes a lot of burden and disability, and it can be treated also. But unfortunately, there are multiple barriers to seeking treatment and continuing treatment. Okay, for example, if okay, so if you take 100 people with mental illness, okay, you take randomly 100 people with mental illness, only 33 of them will seek help. Only 33. 66 people with mental illness out of 100 people do not seek treatment. That's a huge number. Compare it with any other physical illness. For example, starting from fever to cancer. How many people with these physical illnesses will not seek treatment? If there is some option, they will go and seek treatment. But when it comes to mental illness, out of 100 people with mental illness, only 33, that is 66% of people do not seek professional help. Okay, that's a huge number. And the other part is that it is not just that people don't seek help. These 33 people who seek help, okay, even they seek help not on time. They seek help very much delayed. For example, in case of anxiety disorders, okay, anxiety disorder, social anxiety disorder, there is general anxiety disorder, there is hypochondriasis, there are so many anxiety disorders. Okay, so in case of anxiety disorders, there are many studies which says that a person waits about 6 to 8 years to consult a professional. That is, if I have a social anxiety disorder today, okay, I realize that I have a disorder today probably, but I will go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist 8 years later, 6 to 8 years later. No, you cannot imagine that kind of treatment gap, treatment seeking delay in any other form of physical illness. Right? We don't delay that much. 8 years, 6 to 8 years is huge, huge, huge time delay. Okay, and out of those people who start, even many of them delayed. Out of, I think, out of five, one drops out. So this is a lot of people have mental illness. Majority of them do not seek help. Those who seek help very delayed, and those who start help delayed also. Out of them, many drop out. And then we ask, can mental illness be cured? No, then we ask. It's like, we don't do enough to deal with it. I usually tell, we cannot say for sure if mental illness can be cured because there are very few people who have taken adequate treatment. If you take adequate treatment and then see whether it can be cured, then only we will know. Na? But we don't know. Most people drop out. Most people don't continue. Most people don't do what is supposed to be done. So this is a big issue. And being in an institute like IISc, in a premier institute, and maybe you are not from the field of psychology or mental health, but you want to do something for these people in the field, in the area of mental illness. So you want to do something for mental illness. You say, but I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a psychologist. What can I do? The most important thing that you need to do is that you can work to reduce stigma and discrimination. Okay, if that is the only thing that you can do for people with mental illness, that is the most important thing that you can do. It is much better than becoming a doctor, not much better, but better, but it is equally important like a doctor treating a psychiatric patient. Okay, remember, most people do not seek help, not because they don't want to sometimes, but because there is stigma. For example, this is I usually use an example. Okay, there is a person who is going through a lot of difficulties, and on one side he says, on the right side you see, I need help. And I think we all would have gone through this feeling. I need to seek help. I want help. I would say to myself, but the moment I say that, there will be 100 thoughts coming on the other side of the mind. Oh, I don't deserve to be helped. What will everybody say? I'm not a psycho. I'm not a weirdo. I don't need help. What's the point? I can't afford help. Oh, this is nothing. It is usual. It will go away. No. This is just, I keep thinking it is my own creation. It doesn't exist. Oh, I'm ashamed. No, I don't want to talk to people. No, I'm very strong. I'm a strong person. I'm a young, strong person. I'm not weak. I can deal with my problems. So these are the things. So ultimately, what would happen? So against I need help one thought, there are so many thoughts that is coming, and ultimately the person says, okay, I am not going to seek help. Okay, I'm not going to seek help. In that, especially these three, what will everyone say? I can deal with it on my own, and I can't afford help are the most three important barriers to seeking help. So if you know somebody with a mental health issue, and if that person is not seeking professional help, it is usually because any of those three. Okay, one is that what will everyone say, that is to do with the stigma, social stigma. Okay, if I go, they will say that I'm psycho, I'm weak, I'm not good enough, I'm inadequate, I'm flawed, so I don't go. The other is I can deal it with my own. Among youngsters, among young people, especially among people in institutes of higher education like IISc, is that what we call a self-reliance. I am strong person. I don't need anybody's help. This is my burden. This is my pain. I will solve it. Self-reliance. Okay, and of course, some people, a lot of majority in countries like India, they can't afford also. There is therapy treatment available, you are ready to go, you are not worried about the taboos and the stigma and all, but somehow you may not have money to go. Even that is also possible. So these three, structural barriers or logistic barriers, self-reliance, and the stigma. These are three very common barriers to seek help for mental health condition. This is something that we need to remember. Why we need to remember is that next time when you see when one of your friend is going through a lot of difficulties and he or she is going to a psychologist or a psychiatrist, instead of blaming that person, remember that this is very much present. That we need to help that person overcome these barriers so that he will go himself or she will go himself or they will go themselves. Okay, this is what we need to keep in mind. And the first group is so people with mental illness. And
Sir,
yeah,
one participant raised a hand to ask
yeah,
question,
sure,
I
sure,
think.
sure.
Ankita, you can go ahead with your question. You have raised hand.
Ankita,
Ankita,
your
can you
voice
be a
is
little
not clear.
audible? Yeah, it's not audible, Ankita.
Sir, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Sir, like how long should therapy should go on? Like we always feel something negative and something imbalanced feel in our life, even from the childhood till the adulthood or till the 50th age. So how long it should like go?
Therapy.
Yes, sir.
It depends, Ankita, that we need to, for example, when we look into therapy modalities, there are different types of therapy. For example, there is cognitive behavior therapy, there is motivation enhancement therapy, there is rational emotive behavior therapy, there is mindfulness based cognitive therapy. So there are different therapies. Okay, so some of these therapies are very structured and they have a very limited number of sessions. Okay. For example, 12 to 14, 12 to 16 sessions are there for cognitive behavior therapy, but that is under optimal conditions. For example, in India, I practice in our country, most of my clients are Indians only. It is very difficult to follow that because if I ask my clients to finish a task and come back, often they are not able to do, and not because they don't want to, but our system is such that they may not be able to do due to genuine reasons, some other reasons, external reasons. So, and unless it is not done, the improvement in therapy is very difficult. So, there is no definite number like a medication course, like you take it for 5 days, 3 times a day, and you are done. Psychotherapy is not like that. Depending on the skill of the therapist, depending on the nature of the issue, depending on the intensity of the issue, depending on the investment, the adherence or the compliance from the client, and the support he has, the number of sessions that will require would keep varying. And usually, therapy, the purpose of therapy is not to complete the work per se, but to help the client start reworking on himself or whatever is going on in an unhealthy way and teach him the skills so that he keep doing on his own later. So we equip him with certain skills so that he will keep using it later. No? And how many numbers of sessions? There is no definite number. For example, there is motivation enhancement therapy, MET we call it. No, it is given for people with substance addiction or substance dependence, and that therapy is only 4 sessions. Okay, but it doesn't work in actual life that way because there are so many external barriers. Does that answer the question, Ankita?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Actually, one more question, sir. Actually,
Sure.
sir, psychotherapies also get affected by the like listening of clients' issues and like unable to sleep, and because it keeps their words goes in mind. Like how to understand this and how to not get affected by their painful events.
Getting affected is a is a different connotation in the sense that it is not possible to not get affected. For example, I am a human being, and my client is also a human being, and human beings are beings with thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. So somewhere or other, we keep getting affected by each other. It is not that I influence my client; the client also influences me. So the first step towards avoiding a negative impact of that kind of influence is to be aware that this can happen. Okay, so if I say, oh no, I'm a trained therapist, it is not going to happen with me, then I'm blinding myself to the fact that the client's turmoil, the client's emotional distress can over a period of time can burn me out. In fact, last couple of months I have been going through that kind of a kind of similar scenario where I have been working with the children with developmental disabilities, and I have been feeling that it is getting onto my nerves in the past 1 2 months. I felt tired, and then I realized maybe it is because I'm getting tired because I have been listening to a lot of difficulties. But that is a part of the job. That is a part of job. For example, if you are a what is a traffic police guard, you would have to stand on the rain, you would have to stand on the sun, you would have to stand on busy street. We can't avoid it. So every job comes with its own challenges, and one challenge of being a therapist, being a clinician, being a psychologist is that sometimes there is a possibility that the pain and suffering of others, the clients, may get into our nerves. Not all the time, not necessarily. It is a possibility, and I usually often it doesn't affect me significantly, because what I usually do is that every time I get to know about a person's problem, a person's pain and suffering, then I'm reminded of the kind of blessings that I am having. Yeah? That I never knew that people can suffer this much. I don't have to suffer this much. Or I have to be careful that I don't suffer this much. So I try to make use of the knowledge about the pain and suffering of another person, and I try to grow myself. And remember, therapy or counseling is never a one-sided process. If the therapist is not growing along with the client, I usually believe that it is not a complete therapy. You cannot help another grow without growing yourself. No? And learning to know, hearing to know about others' pain and suffering, and demons, so-called demons, it can be quite insightful, quite enriching, and quite what we say, supporting our growth if we use it very what we say very wisely. And then we have supervision. We take supervisions. Then we have colleagues, peers. We discuss each other and we share our difficulties and all. We seek support from others, and we also go for therapists, those who feel like going. So there are, so like any other trouble that people deal, we do that also, along with supervision, training, and support, and interacting with our clients and all, interacting with our peers and all. And to a great extent, it doesn't affect us one to one, like a friend's emotion will affect us. Sorry, that do not happen with the therapy, because we are trained also, not to a great extent. We are trained. So while it will affect us, we are aware of it. We are trained to deal with it, and whatever is remaining will affect us. But that is a part of the job, I think. Does that answer the question, Ankita?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Does that answer adequately is a question, or
Mm.
you are not happy with the answer?
Yeah, yes, sir. You are like it was. I was understanding what you're saying. Yeah, but sometimes when we do practical, we only understand the what person has taught me before. Like I think when I will go in the taking session, I think.
Yeah, that is true. So a part of it can be only experience, not learned, not heard, or not heard and learned, but to be seen and experienced and learned. That is true, Ankita. That is true.
Mm. Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
So
thank.
yeah. So coming to the second group, the first group is people with mental illness. The second group is people with the mental health problem. Okay, they don't have, they have distress, they have stress, they have distress, but they don't have enough distress to call that they have a mental illness. Okay, we call it silent and hidden burdens. And majority of us will probably belong to this group. And we don't have mental illness does not mean that we are not suffering. We are also suffering. There is an impact on our functioning. Okay, and this group, the second group, where suffering is there but no mental illness, the most important issue is that I would say I'm stressed, I'm tensed, I'm anxious, but I'm sure I don't have a mental illness. And if I don't have a mental illness, I don't have to go to a professional. Why would I go to a professional if I don't have? So for this group of people, what we need to keep in mind is that seeking professional help is not just for people with mental illness. Anybody, any person who can or who wishes to improve, to grow, to become better in life can actually and preferably seek help so that it can be done in a better way. So for this group, the biggest issue is that they don't know professional help is for them also, that seeking help is not just a matter of mental illness, it can be done by anybody. This is the second group. And the third group, probably some of us will belong to those people who have no distress and no significant difficulties in functioning also. The question is, they are productive in activities, they maintain fulfilling relationship, they possess ability to adapt and cope. But then the question is, why do we need to talk about their mental health? They are doing okay. They're doing okay. They are having no distress and they don't have no significant difficulties in functioning. Then the answer is that, then the question is that we need to ask, yes, I am doing okay, but am I doing well? And the answer is usually that I am doing okay, but not well. I can do much better. That is what usually many of us would say. If in case somebody says yes, I am doing well, I'm doing my best, I'm doing well. Then yes, are you doing your best? Somebody would say yes, I'm doing well. But if you ask one more question, are you doing your best? Then the person says, I'm doing well, not my best. I am aware, I'm pretty sure that there is much more I can do, but not that much. I'm doing well only. And somehow, if a person says, I'm doing well, I'm doing my best, the next question we need to ask is, are you doing the best for yourself as well as for the society? No, yes, you're doing the best for yourself. Are you doing for the society? You're doing your best for the society, but are you doing for yourself? And the answer is usually is that no. Okay, so even if we don't have mental illness, even if we don't have mental health problems, even if there is no significant distress, we can still have a place where we can grow. And if you look into your own lives, you will realize that I am doing this much, but there are times when you realize, oh, so much potential I have, I could have done so much things, but I did not do that, I did not do this, I did not do that. You keep thinking that about it, right? So a therapist, a psychologist, a mental health professional can help you bridge the gap, reduce the gap between your potential and actual experience, actual performance. There's a gap between how much potential you hold and how where you stand now. And getting help from a therapist, a psychologist, or a counselor can reduce the gap between your potential as well as your actual performance. That can also be done. And for this group of people, even if I don't have mental illness now, doesn't mean that I may not have it in the future. So it is better I start getting ready for improving my mental health and building my resilience. That is also very important. Okay, so one thing we need to remember is that what is mind, then what we need to understand is what is mental illness, a syndrome, significant distress, causing difficulties in thinking, feeling and acting caused by some kind of psychological problem. Okay, then there are four abnormality. There is danger, deviance, distress and dysfunction. Then we have what we call as three groups of people, three types of people, depending on their level of mental health or mental illness. One group are people with mental illness, the other group is people with distress but no mental illness, and the third group is no distress and no significant disturbance in functioning. Okay, then coming to mental health. So if this is mental illness, what does it mean by mental health? So according to WHO, World Health Organization, mental health means this. Okay, so the first thing that we need to keep in mind that if somebody asks you what is mental health, the first thing that you need to say is that mental health is a state of well-being. Remember, it is a state, not a trait. A state means that it is dynamic, it is shifting, it is changing, it is moving all the time. Okay, so which also indicates that if it is a state, it can keep changing. So if you are mentally healthy today, does not mean that you are mentally healthy tomorrow. It is not like you buying a car that you bought it, so it will be with you all the time. It is like having a tree, planting a tree that you need to take care of it on a daily basis. So the first thing that we need to remember is that it is a state of well-being. So in that state of well-being, what happens and what is happening? What is happening is that the person, the individual realizes his or her own abilities. Okay, so me, Naufal, I have a state of mind, I have a state of well-being, I feel good. And in that goodness, what I feel is that I'm realizing, okay, now for me, these are the things I can do. And I will do that. I'm doing that. So the person is realizing his or her own abilities. And also, life keeps throwing different stresses to us on a daily basis. So I'm also able to deal with the normal stresses of life. Okay. Not just that, I'm able to work productively and fruitfully. So I am working productively and fruitfully, and not just for myself, but for the making of the building of a making of a healthy society. So mental health, if you ask yourself, am I mentally healthy? What you need to ask yourself is, am I in a state of well-being? Am I realizing my own potential? Am I coping okay with the stresses of my daily life? Am I working productively and fruitfully? And am I doing something to the building of a healthy society? If the answer is yes to these questions, then you can say that we are a mentally healthy person. But often, unfortunately, the truth is that we are not mentally healthy people. We may not have mental illness, but we are not mentally healthy. Okay, so that is so. What we need to keep in mind is that absence of mental illness, you not having a mental illness does not mean that you don't have you have mental health. Okay, that is what we need to keep in mind. And so I will skip a couple of things and go to so, if once we understand mental health and mental illness, the next question is what to next? Okay, this is mental health illness. This is mental health. Now what? Okay. Next is taking care of mental health. Okay. So once we understand about mental health and illness, the next thing to do is that we need to take care of mental health. And I'm going to quickly review some important points that will help you to take care of your mental health. This is only a beginning, generic kind of suggestions. Once we understand these generic things, for each of us, we need to have our own ways of dealing with our mental health issues or taking care of our mental health. No, it is like mental health is like having a cloth, maybe a shirt, maybe a shirt. Okay, so shirt, we know that we all need a shirt, but the size of the shirt, the cloth of the shirt, the stitching of the shirt, the design in the shirt, the place where we will get the shirt stitched, the buttons, the stitching, the quality, each of these things will differ. Okay, so mental health is also like a shirt. We all need it, but we need it in different sizes and different ways. Okay, so I will just talk about the shirt part. What kind of ornamentation, what kind of accessorizing you need to do, that is individually tailor made kind of thing. Okay, so when we talk about taking care of mental health, it means that a person is doing something in short term as well as in long term for himself and for others. Okay, so when you somebody asks you what does it mean by taking care of mental health, you say you take care of mental health means that you are doing something in order to promote your mental health in the short term as well as long term for yourself as well as for others. Okay, and it means you are doing something to promote your mental health, you do something to deal with an ongoing mental health issue, or you are doing something to prevent a mental illness from happening in the future. So taking care of mental health can mean any of these three things. Coming to generic aspects of taking care of mental health, the first thing that we need to do is that we need to develop awareness about the nature of mental health problems. Unfortunately, majority of the people, majority of the public is not yet aware of what is mental health and what is mental illness and its nature. Okay, and if we don't know the basics, if we don't understand what is going on, if we don't understand what is mental health, how are we going to take care of it? So the first step of taking care of mental health or taking care of anything is that we learn about it, we understand what it is about. Okay, the first step is to improve awareness about nature of mental health problems. Okay, I'll give a very quick example. I don't know how many of you cook in the kitchen. So imagine that you're in the kitchen cooking something, cutting something, and maybe you scratch your finger. You scratch your finger, and it's a scratch. So what will you do? You'll just let it be. You don't do anything. You continue working. Okay, sometimes there is a cut and it is slightly bleeding. There you can see the white of the flesh, and you apply a band-aid and you let it be. Sometimes the cut is a bit more deeper, it is bleeding. What will you do? You will go to the nearby clinic, and the nurse or doctor there will dress it and send you back. Sometimes God forbid the cut is so deep that you're bleeding so profusely, and what will you do? You will not go to the clinic nearby, you will tie it up quickly, and then you will go to a big hospital where the doctor may say, see, there is a nerve cut, you have to get admitted. And we say, okay, we get admitted, we'll have a problem. And we do that, majority of us will do that as if we were born with that knowledge, as if we were born with that knowledge. But it is not true. That is also learned. We learned that doing also, that system also. If it is a scratch, we let it be. If it is a slightly deep cut, we go to the nearby clinic. If it is a deeper cut, we go to a hospital. Who told us that? We learned that. Just to convert that into mental health. No, instead of cut, we just replace the cuts with mental illness. Okay, or stress. Okay, so you are stressed, you talk to a friend maybe, or you do something in order to take care of it. You are a bit more stressed and you're anxious and there is something more going on. Maybe you will talk to your friend, or maybe you will talk to a teacher, or maybe you'll talk to a mentor. No, it is much more than that. You're not able to do anything about it. You go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist. No, we don't know that. Not because we don't know that, but it is not there, but because we are not taught. So the day when physical mental illness is equally treated as physical illness, then those days we will be doing this also. That is why developing awareness is very important. And the second thing, once you improve awareness, the second thing to do is that you have to value mental health as a legitimate aspect of life. We think we value mental health, but we don't. We value it, we think, but we don't. For example, if we ask last 1 year, what did you do consciously in order to improve your mental health? The answer is usually that nothing. Most people would say that, oh, mental, what we have to do something to improve our mental health is what most people would ask. That is because we don't value. And if we value mental health, then only we will do something about it. And another step is that we need to seek professional consultation for a mental health concern. Okay, you are going through some significant difficulties. Instead of and denying that I don't have a problem, you seek professional help. Okay, and of course, it is not just seeking you would do. You have to seek help in an early age. We must not wait for 6 years, 8 years, and 20 years and all before we seek help. That is also very important. And another issue, as I said, is that when we talk about taking care of mental health, means that we need to accept that there is a problem. Often we say, no, there is nothing, I'm fine, I'm doing good, it's nothing, it's silly, it is small. No, if we have a problem, we need to accept that there is a problem and we need to work on it. Okay. And also we have to be gentle with ourselves, but wise in handling our weaknesses. Sometimes, often we are very harsh with ourselves. If I'm feeling low, I'm like, now, Paul, you're a stupid person. You are such a weak person. You are feeling low, and you don't even able to manage your emotions. What kind of a person you are? Such a flawed, such an inadequate being you are. We keep telling ourselves, but we cannot be that harsh with ourselves. Okay, and also we need to seek support, mobilize support. I need to do things in order to make myself better. At the same time, I need to seek help from other people also. And definitely, we need to avoid over reliance on quick fix solutions. For example, quick fix solutions would mean that I am pretty sure some of you, when feeling low, you might watch a movie, or you might eat ice cream or chocolate, or you might go for a trip, or you might watch a movie. That is okay. That is okay in short term, temporary term, it is okay. But every time you felt sad, you wanted to have an ice cream, then the whole ice cream in the whole world may not suffice to deal with our sadness, right? So while it is important to do short term kind of things in order to improve our mood, it is also important that we learn skills so that we are not getting affected very regularly negatively. That is also very important. And some short term quick fix solutions are inherently harmful. For example, smoking or drinking, even in short term, that can be unhealthy. For example, watching a movie, sleeping, or getting going for a trip, they are not harmful in the short term, but if we keep doing that, if we keep only doing that, it might be a problem over a period of time. And in another way, taking care of mental health would mean that you reach in. I'm pretty sure you might recognize that in our life we keep running after one after the other thing. We keep just running, we don't stop, we don't pause, we never ask, okay, what am I doing, where am I staying, what am I doing in my life, where have I reached in my life. We very rarely pause, stop, reflect, and understand, oh, I'm here and I did not want to be here. We are running, never to stop till the day we fall down. If we were to improve our mental health, it is very important that we need to be mindful, we need to pause, we need to reflect, and we need to take a stock of what is going on in our life. And definitely polishing peace skills. Peace skills are all about psychological skills. We are very careful, especially people in the field of technical areas and all. They're very careful about improving their academic skills, job skills, so many other skills. But very rarely we talk about managing our emotions, manage emotion skills or communication skills and all. So taking care of our mental health is also mean that we need to take care of our psychological skills, which is usually about communication, emotion, managing all those things. Okay, and sometimes we need to reach out. No, we need to reach out. We need to go and talk to people. Rashid, I'm not feeling good. I'm feeling really bad. Can you help me? I need help. Sometimes we reach out, and sometimes, often as possible, we need to keep giving. Giving is not just about money, not just about charity, but about, it can be giving a smile also. Giving anything that would make another person's life better is actually a very good way of improving your mental health. And sometimes we don't want to reach out, we don't need that kind of support, you just want to lean on to somebody for some time so that you can take a rest and you can move forward. So taking care of mental health would mean that you reach in, you polish your peace skills, you reach out, you keep giving, you learn to give more, and of course lean on. These are some of the activities that you might be able to do, and in each of these things there can be a number of activities that would suit yourself. It can be different for different individuals. And in long term, so these are for short term, in long term, taking care of mental health would mean that we improve our resilience. And resilience, I'm pretty sure, if you are from the field of science, you would know that resilience it's a physical term. In physics means that an ability of a mass, an object to, what we say, to achieve its shape back, right? That is a resilience, right? So in mental health, resilience is that we keep experiencing negative events in our life. Some stress here, some stress there, some stress there, a failure here, a failure there, a rejection here. So life keeps throwing at us different negative stressful events, and resilience would say how much capable we are to come out of these difficult situations without much damage. That is our resilience. And in long term, we need to improve our resilience. Improving resilience would mean that we invest time, energy, and effort in developing our competent skills and dealing our stressors, managing our stress proactively and timely, and of course managing emotions. Here I would like to wind up my presentation. If there is any queries, I would be really glad to take up.
Thank you, Dr. Nafal Hamid sir, for delivering fruitful on well-being matters that matter. So now, if you want to use the chat box, you can use chat box also.
Feel free to ask any questions, even if it is about mental health in general or from outside the field also. It is all right. I will be happy to answer if I know the answer, and if I don't know the answer, I can go and find out and learn for myself also. So it's a win-win situation anyway. Or your thoughts? Yes, I can see Garvita has raised her hand.
Hello, sir.
Hello, Garvita.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Hello, sir. Sir, I want to ask question regarding mental health.
Sure.
Sir, mental is something that affects your every aspect of your life, be it psychological, emotional. It affects every aspect of your life.
Yes.
Mental health.
Hmm.
Like depression will have number of symptoms. Like you are feeling sad at the same time you are having suicidal thoughts. Matlab.
Hmm. Yes, Garvita, it affects all aspects of our life. Yeah.
So it also affects your psychological and biological thing as well. You're not able to you feel like dysfunction. Matlab. This, uh, you're not able to behave normally.
Hmm.
It's like that.
Yeah. So in depression, for example, very quickly I'll tell what depression is. In depression, if somebody comes to us, the way we define if that person is depressed or not is based on three main characteristics. We call it the cardinal symptoms of depression. Okay, one is that low mood. Okay, low mood. Okay, the question is, last 1 week, majority of the time, how was your mood? If the person says, my mood was low, my mood was sad, my mood was anxious, my mood was irritable. Okay, and remember, often people mistake that depression is always about feeling sad. A person with depression can also experience irritability and anxiety also. Okay, and in many cases, people experience all the three together. A person is anxious, sad, and irritable at the same time. Okay, so if a person experiences continuous sad mood, pervasive sad mood, remember it is not 24 hours kind of sad mood, majority of the time, sad mood, that is one symptom of depression. And lack of interest in activities that the person used to enjoy before. The person would come and say, sir, last few months I am not able to read. I used to read a lot. I used to like to read. I used to play. I used to go out with people. I don't feel like doing it anymore. I feel like I don't want to do it anymore. I am not able to find joy, happiness in that. So lack of interest in, so sad mood or negative mood or low mood, lack of interest in activities, and fatigue. The person feels tired all the time. The person would say, kuch nahi karta hu, sir, I don't do much, but still I feel keep feeling tired and tired. I just want to lie down somewhere and rest. I wake up with the tiredness in the morning itself, is what people say. So if a person is having low mood, fatigue, and lack of interest in activities for majority of the time for about 1 week, we usually say that the person may be depressed. Okay, suicide thoughts, low self-esteem, attention concentration issues, sleep disturbance, all these are associated symptoms of depression. They are seen in depression, but not all the time. And difficulty in eating, like reduced appetite and all, reduced libido and all those things is a part of depression, but not the main symptoms of depression. And it affects all areas of our function, our way of thinking, our way of feeling, our way of doing, behave. Yes. Any questions, other? Or thoughts?
Yes, Ankita, go ahead.
Sir, sometimes people just sir they take very easily to mental disorder or depression, or like they say that like it's just a small misunderstanding. Like it create very irritating feeling when someone says this, because like when I am or someone is faced that like how it was painful, and someone is saying that it is just a small misunderstanding, you didn't get trophy, that why you went into depression. It's not like that. Like he doesn't take it seriously, and he doesn't know like how it is harming a person's life in every way. He's not able to sleep, he doesn't able to study, or not doing normal daily work. So like how do I treat like with this type of people around me when they say they like this is something just it's just a small thing.
Mm, 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 mm. Okay, okay. An important question, Ankita, and it is usually about. See, when a person speaks something like that, when somebody is going through depression, and the other person says, maybe a relative, maybe a friend, maybe a colleague says, no, it is just your thinking. It is silly. Why are you feeling this way? There is nothing much about it. These things can be quite irritating, quite disheartening, quite discouraging, and quite painful kind of experience for anybody to go through such an experience, right? But as a person who is into understanding mental health and illness, when a person says it is nothing, instead of getting angry with them, instead of getting irritated with them, instead of getting dissatisfied with them, what we need to ask ourselves is that, okay, somebody is going through depression and this person is saying it is nothing. what would make this person say that it is nothing? And usually the answer is that that person have no idea what depression is. Yeah. For example,
Yes.
if I were to say, God forbidden, that somebody has cancer, if I say to one of my friend that, see, this friend of mine, he's having cancer, nobody would say that it is just a cancer. Why are you worried about it, right? Because people know how serious an illness is cancer, and the same seriousness can be having for depression also, but people don't know that, right? So it is a matter of people not knowing than people doing that purposefully. They are acting on their available knowledge about depression. For them, depression means sadness, no? And sadness is kind of choice for most people, so they say it is nothing. So those kinds of situations is a chance for us to educate the person about what mental health is, what mental illness is, what depression is, and what kind of a disorder depression is. Educate them, then our role is done. Even after educating also, the person may use the same sentences, but that is not our problem, that is not our concern, because we can't make the person do something. What we do is we remove the ignorance from the person's life, give him a choice to know what depression is, and then let him decide what he wants to do. And remember, knowing about depression doesn't make people understand depression or accept depression in another person. I have a client who is depressed. Okay, her mother-in-law, she has been depressed, and she's taking medicine, but still she don't agree that her daughter-in-law is having depression. No. So there is a mother-in-law who has gone through depression, is been on medication for several years, but and her daughter-in-law is depressed, but she won't say she's being lazy. She doesn't want to do job at home. Okay? But that is not our problem. Our duty is, I know depression is an illness, and if you realize somebody do not know, that is our duty, responsibility to educate them. And once we educate them, we can help it. For example, India, every country has a law which says do not kill, do not murder, do not rob, do not steal, but people keep doing that. We can't help it. We can only educate people. So, Ankita, to answer your question very briefly, what we need to do is, most often people behave in unhelpful ways when it becomes mental health, is because most people do not know. Okay, it is because lack of awareness, because ignorance. Remove the ignorance, bring light. Put light into their ignorance, remove the darkness, and then give them a chance to do whatever they want to do. And it is a continuing process over a period of time. For example, now we are about 10 15 people. So now I wish all of us, all of you, when you go back and they say, depression is just thinking, depression is just a person making up, you post and say, no, it's a mental illness, and mental illness means this and this and these things. You tell them, you tell to 10 people, you tell to 100 people, you tell to 1,000 people. Out of 1,000, maybe 10 will listen and change, and that is good enough. No, that is good enough, and we keep doing that. And in fact, this is what I have been doing for the last 5, 6, 7 years. And I am pretty sure, I know for a fact that many people have started, accepting mental illness, accepting depression as a mental illness. Instead of questioning them or making them feel bad about their not knowing about depression, we need to be kind, because people don't know. Does that answer the question, Ankita?
Yes, sir. Sir, actually, I was saying ki they will say that you have depression and these symptoms, and there should be something you should take care of this having. But they think ki you went into depression because just something small thing happened to you.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
I want the I'm saying the meaning is ki like I mean to say uh, it's just if something is went into depression, but we know that for how long painful he went before that from months or years. That's why now he is diagnosed with that. But
Hmm.
that person will like because of something small thing happened with him. That's why
Hmm.
he is suffering from this. I'm
Hmm.
saying this like.
I understand. So people, this is like, for such a silly reason, why are you depressed? It is nothing.
Uh,
No? And
But like
that
they
too
will
is,
laugh. They will laugh. Like, okay, you're like you didn't get toffee, that's why you went into depression. That's why you're sad. Like the meaning is like that for them.
Yeah, that also the same also. That also is because they don't know what actually causes depression. Even they might realize there is something called depression, but they will not accept it in the right way, in the healthy way. That depression is not something caused by any life event. Even many psychology students itself mistake that depression is caused by breakups and loss of job and all and death or loss of somebody loved. It is not caused by. It is a trigger actually. A trigger doesn't mean that it is the cause. A trigger is something that triggered. No, it is a contributing factor, not a causal factor. If breakup can cause cancer, cause depression, then everybody who goes through breakup should be developing depression. Breakup along with many other factors can contribute to a person developing depression. That is one thing. And if somebody says for such a small thing, why are you so much bothered? I usually give this example of this is the example I usually use. It was such a small bullet. Why are you dead? A bullet is very small. It's very small actually. No, very small. We never ask a person. It's a small bullet. Why are you dead? The size of the thing doesn't mean much. It is the impact that matters a lot, and the impact depends on the person's life overall, right? So I was stabbed by a big knife, and I'm alive. It was such a small bullet for you, and you dead. What kind of stupid you are? If somebody asks, what logic is that? So the size of an event is not in the event itself, but in its impact. It's an impact. For example, especially for this depression is another thing, Ankita. For suicide, for suicide, people say for such a silly thing, people she committed suicide is what people say. But they forget that a person who would have wanted to live. I mean, I don't want to die, and I think most of us don't want to die. And in a world where everybody wants to continuously live good, for a person to end his or her life, throwing life into the unknown, unknown depths or death, death, if somebody takes a decision, so if a particular event can lead a person to end his life, that is a big event actually, right? So if something that can cause a death is not big, what is big on this world? For a person to lose life, if something is small, then also, then we are understanding life in a wrong way. We have to improve our understanding rather than making these people change. So something caused death, and we are saying such a small thing, then we are understanding it wrong, not the person. So that is what we need to keep in mind. It also to do with no, knowledge, Ankita. We need to educate people, and depression is caused not caused by like that. Depression can actually come just like that also, just like that. All of a sudden, 1 week, 2 week, a person is depressed. No reason, no triggering factors. In fact, I have a few clients who actually develop depression without anything. They say, sir, my life was heaven. Good job, good friends, good partner, good family. Then last 1 month, I have been feeling this way. I don't know what is happening. That is also there. We mistakenly believe that there is a cause for depression like that, which is not true, which is not scientific, and people don't know that. We need to educate them about that also.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Any Ankita, you want to ask something? Hello? Okay, so I hope there is no other questions.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so we are moving to the last part of our today's workshop. So we are winding up today's session on well-being matters that matter. So now I would like to give our sincere gratitude to Dr. Naufal Hamid for giving such a wonderful session on well-being matters that matter. So even that title itself is like attracting for me as well. So yeah, I am a mental health professional, but again that title is itself is attracted for me. So and I hope in a normal and in a common manner he has explained what is mental health, what is mind, what can be done to improve our mental health as a person, even in the life of each and every person, each and every individual in the world. So, and he one more thing he explained that even if a mental health professional, he also feels some kind of difficulties, some kind of problems, mental health difficulties and all, and we are also seeking help from the expert. So a common man has to seek help if they need help. So that is the one thing I also want to share with you. So again, thank you very much, sir, for the session, and I would like to thank each and every participant for being part of this workshop and for the questions. Thank you all. Thank you very much. So yeah, we are winding up. So in between, Ankita, do you want to ask something?
Mm. No, no, sir. It's done.
Okay, fine,
Thank
fine.
you, sir.
Okay. Okay. So thank you very much all for your kind participation and your time. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Bye.